Formula 3 is back at Macau. Welcome everybody to the first car activity of the first of 4 days in this second weekend of the 70th Macau Grand Prix. It is not only the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix, it is the return too of the FIA Formula 3 World Cup. David Anderson and Alan Hyde trackside, looking over the pit lane that is getting busier because the session is within 5 minutes of starting. It is a stellar entry, including not only drivers that have excelled in FIA Formula 3 this year, but also some returning from Formula 2, coming back into Formula 3. One or two drivers stepping up to Formula 3 for the first time. And of course, you've got previous winners like Richard Verschoor and Dan Ticktum in the entry as well. It is absolutely wide open. It is an exceptional entry. And with only 3 drivers in the entry, with any previous Macau Formula 3 experience, it's going to be fascinating to see how the newcomers fare against them. So we are ready to get free practice 1 underway. They're one of the late additions to the entry, Dennis Hauger, who's taken over Franco Colapinto's entry at MP Motorsport, the Red Bull Junior, and he's another driver that's got to be there or thereabouts. 28 is Murray Boyer, also for the MP Motorsport team, the Spaniard. And this first session is going to be for 40 minutes, and for many of them, Alan, it's going to be a real eye-opener, their first experience of the circuit.
I think it's an eye-opener for all of us to get Formula 3 cars back. It's been a while, hasn't it? 3 years of the headline actor over the course of the Macau Grand Prix weekend being Formula 4 cars, which we had last weekend. So we've got double dose now. We've got the FIA Formula 3 cars coming back, and it's a treat to see these cars. They've only been here once, and around the gear circuit, if you go back 4 years, we weren't really sure how it was going to work. They're big cars. I mean, it's quite incredible when you stand up next to them down in the pit lane. Formula 3 cars over the years have grown and grown, a bit like road cars. So
yes.
4 years ago, we weren't really sure how they were going to work around the gear circuit, and they did work.
Yeah.
But we've got used now to the slightly smaller Formula 4 cars. So so this is going to be a sight to behold. This.
Now, we were saying in the first weekend of this 70th Macau Grand Prix anniversary that, of course, the round from Reservoir all the way through Mandarin down to Lisboa are very, very fast. You can get a tow. Yes, yes. These cars on that section, after Mandarin, before Lisboa, there's a short but useful DRS zone. So they're going to be even quicker. So not only can you slipstream, you add the DRS into it, and it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. So the run to Lisboa is going to be absolutely crucial, not only on that first lap, as we've seen in the past, but any part of the race where there is a battle pack. Sophia Flörsch returning to the gear circuit for Van Amersfoort Racing. And very shortly, the pit lane will be open. We are within the last minute as the drivers get set. The Rodin Carlin entry, Zane Maloney, the driver from Barbados, and Dan Ticktum, of course, who's a double winner and very, very keen to come back. Another sort of late addition to the ranks, moving away from stateside racing to come back and have another crack at Macau. Marcus Armstrong, the Kiwi, who's found a seat at MP Motorsport as well.
I got a chance to ask Dan Ticktum, do you remember his first win when the two in front of him crashed at the last corner? He sailed through, took his first win, and I've never asked him in all the ensuing time, what did that feel like? Was it a bit of a surprise? He said, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what was happening. So pretty much like the rest of the world.
Yes, it was Ferdinand Hansberg and Sergio Sette Camara, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tangled.
Yeah.
Right, green light at the end of the pit lane. 40 minutes then for the FIA Formula 3 cars underway for FP1 for the Macau Grand Prix. Just to make the point, everybody is in the same type of car. They're all Dallara F3 2019s. They've all got Mechachrome 3.4 litre 6-speed engines. They kick out 380 horsepower. So these are serious rocket ships around a circuit like this. Some of them will have got street racing experience, of course, either from Formula 3 or Formula 2 at, for example, Monaco. But there's nowhere quite like Macau.
There is nowhere like Macau at all. And do you know, it's quite interesting. We've got slightly different air conditions, slightly different weather conditions. It's a little bit overcast as we look over the water. It's a little bit grayer today. The air temperature is 17 degrees. Normally for the Macau Grand Prix weekend, we're pretty humid, and it's generally 24 degrees, 25 degrees, so it's warm, it's hot. Yesterday, the cloud burnt off around midday, and so I just wonder, and of course the point of this is that the Formula 3 cars will be coming out again at the end of the day as well. So I just wonder if the track conditions might be at their best now because it's a little bit cooler.
Possibly so, because yes, you're right, the hotter it gets, the more the engines sort of get a bit strangled, although in fairness, because these are bigger engines, it's rather less than it used to do the old-fashioned, if you like, 2-litre Formula 3 engine.
We're kind of taming these, yeah.
Which are always a little bit breathless, but these cars are, as we say, serious bits of kit.
It's nice to see them back on the circuit.
Oh, it is.
These are good pictures.
You've just also possibly seen a flashing light because the drivers were told yesterday by the race director that there would be a dummy virtual safety car deployment at the start of this session just to see that the system works. Now, a VSC is being used here for the first time. The drivers, if they've raced in F3 or F2 this year's supporting Grand Prix, will be used to it, but it's never been used here. So at the start of the session, really as a admin exercise, they will run a VSC, make sure the lights work, have the light panels around the circuit now, make sure the drivers are used to it, and then once the ball's got that, so under the VSC, then we can get on with the serious business of setting times. Richard Bachur carries number 1, incidentally. He is one of those previous winners. He won back in 2019. He's been racing in Formula 2 this year, as you go on board now with Gabriele Mini in number 9, the SJM Theodore Kramer Racing car, 7th in the FIA Formula 3 Championship this year with a couple of race wins. He won Monaco, he won Hungary. And there is the very, very tight Malco hairpin, at which point cue Alan to explain the no overtaking rule.
So throughout the course of the Grand Prix weekend, the virtual safety car, by the way, is now ending. It's coming to an end. So that little exercise, we think, has been successful, and we go green now on this frequency session. Yeah, so the Malco hairpin is throughout the course of the 4 days for the Macau Grand Prix under effectively a yellow flag. So no overtaking as you come towards the Malco hairpin for no other reason than you couldn't overtake even if you wanted to. It's hard enough to get one of these cars. I remember a demonstration 10 years ago for the 60th Grand Prix celebration. There was a demonstration and there were Formula 3 cars through the years, and someone who will remain nameless was not able to negotiate the Malco hairpin. A bit of assistance was required on the exit. Yeah,
right.
3-point turn spring to mind.
I'm with you.
No overtaking.
Now, as a target, have a look at anything around about a 2:06, because that's the lap record held by Yuri Vips from 2019, the last time these cars were on the gear circuit. You're looking at the incident of Lisboa now heading towards San Francisco. And Luke Browning, the British driver, comes from Kingsley, which is near Frodsham, which is not far from Alton Park. Luke is the man first onto a flying lap then right now in the high-tech Pulse 8 car. He had a second at Barcelona in the FIA F3 Championship this year as his best. Came out of the Junior Saloon Car Championship through Ginetta Junior, British Formula 4 champion, and then 15th in FIA F3 this year. In
the tricky year as well for championships across the world to get a full championship together. Luke Browning won the championship in 2020, didn't he?
Yeah, the COVID year, yeah, you're quite right, yeah. And it came down to the wire, didn't it? Fascinating, tense last race weekend at Brands Hatch. Another one, I think, Alan, that's going to be quite interesting, who is moving into these cars for the first time, and how about this for a baptism, is Alex Dunn, who has done remarkable things over the last few years, winning in F4, British champion in 22, he's raced in the Italian and was the runner-up, he's raced in the UAE, he's raced in the German, he's raced in the Spanish, he was runner-up in GB3 this year, which are Formula 3 style cars, but nowhere near as powerful. Second generation racer. And the Irishman comes very, very highly rated. But, I mean, wow, being thrown into one of these cars for the first time in terms of racing one, at least he might have done a bit of testing, but to be thrown into it here, that's a big ask.
It's a big step, yeah. And but every driver, every young driver, see just how cumbersome they are to get around the exit, because they're a long car. When you turn it through the Malco hairpin, it's pretty difficult on exit, and that's the kind of thing that they're learning now, because for many of these drivers, first time, we say Alex Dunn, first time here, he's got a great pedigree, but learning in real life, despite the fact they've been on simulators for weeks and weeks and months, there is nothing quite like the ups and downs and it's the seat of your pants feeling, isn't actually being in the car and feeling the way through the seat of your race overalls. So yeah, they are learning, and now is the time to do it.
Well, Luke Browning offers up the target time. It's very much a start-up lap. Alex Dunn blitzes that as he goes through and done a 2:28, but we're quite a long way away from where we need to be for a lap time, so they're playing themselves in. Also, with actually quite a lot of them in the pit lane still. One staying out is Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar, the French-Algerian driver, who's been in F2 this year, so he moves back to Formula 3 for the purposes of this weekend. Alex Dunn, you're looking at then, who has done a 2:28.107 as the best lap thus far. But there's a lot more to come. And actually, I think we've only got 3 cars, and we've only just really started to shepherd more than 3 cars onto the circuit. Quite a lot did an installation lap and then sat there.
Well, at least they can't complain about traffic first thing in the morning, can they? But the interesting thing, I love the draw of Macau, and it's the 70th celebration, 70th Macau Grand Prix this weekend. And drivers that have gone on to do other things. Dan Ticktum is a great example. He's won 2 times here. He has been victorious twice at Macau. He wants to write his name into the record books. He wants to be a 3-time winner. And despite the fact that he's been a couple of seasons of Formula E, and whatever he's doing, he wants to come back and get back into a Formula 3 car and have another go at this. And it's interesting because there have been other drivers in the past that have gone on. They've been maybe a test driver for a Formula 1 team, or maybe so my example is going to be Antonio Felix Costa, when he was a works driver for BMW in DTM. Still, he wanted to get back in a Formula 3 car, and BMW said, no, that's okay, you could do that. Even if you're going to be wearing a different manufacturer's badge on your overalls, it's fine, we'll give you a special dispensation to go back to Macau because we know how important it is.
Sure. The lap times will tumble. We, in racing on last Sunday, got a 2:24 out of the F4 cars as the best, so we know how much faster these are. They're going to be much, much quicker. And yes, there were plenty of drivers that the yellow flag at turn 14, incidentally. So up to the Solitude S's, we've now gone green. Was it possibly for Isaac Hadjar there, who's put himself moving again? But yeah, sorry, to finish the point, there are drivers that want to come back to Macau because they love it, and there are drivers that take Zane Maloney as an example. You know, he's up into Formula 2, but because of the last 3 years, that wave of drivers would have missed out on Macau. So he's quite happy, others the same, to step into a Formula 3 car again, just so they can race here and tick it off the list.
I've just remembered another driver that did that again and again. He didn't win at Macau, but he had podiums here at Macau. Alexander Sims. I don't remember how many times he's done it. It's probably 6 times he's been in a Formula 3 car, despite the fact he was racing at Le Mans in the top category. He also, so here's a little thing about Alexander Sims, and clearly he's thought, okay, I'm going to call time out on my return to Formula 3 because he's not been for the last few years. But he elected to come here because he got the opportunity to drive on the weekend that his wife was expecting their, I think, 2nd child, 3rd child. So, and it happened over the course of the weekend. He got the phone call and it had all happened, but he was driving a Formula 3 car this weekend, so that was the job in hand, if you like. That's how much it means.
Absolutely. There, Gabriele Nini, the 2020 Italian Formula 4 champion. A new set of to put on the car. Pirellis that everybody runs on, as in the FIA Championship. Number 25, the car in entry, is Dan Ticktum, that Alan was talking about earlier on. He's been racing in Formula E this year, but the double winner of the Macau Grand Prix 2017-2018, to be the first one to do 3 in a row. 3 wins, not 3 in a row, 3 wins. Now fastest Noah Leon, who's done a 2:17.8, looking at him now. And that's the ultra-fast bit coming out of Mandarin down towards Lisboa. And this next section, Alan, does not focus the attention.
It absolutely does. The Macau, the gears circuit here at Macau has got everything. It's got dual carriageways and it's got single carriageways. And we're not joking because that part of the circuit down, well, pretty much the end of the lap to the start of the lap is just so quick. It's so quick, it's so wide. So the final turn, our bend through across the start-finish line into turn 1 at Reservoir, then down to Mandarin. It is incredible. So at night time, so from 6 o'clock until 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning, buses, coaches, mopeds, everything, taxis. It's the normal roads of Macau, and therefore a dual carriageway during the night time it converts to a very wide circuit that kind of invites you to go as quick as possible. And even the most experienced driver or rider says that, yeah, Commander is still just because of the speed. I was speaking to a multiple winner here at Macau yesterday, and he said, yeah, Commander is scary. Absolutely no doubt about it. You are so close to the barriers, and you are so quick on the run down towards Lisboa. The right hand at Lisboa, that's the pinch point. And when you go into the right hand at Lisboa, it's barely a double carriageway really. It's so tight, and that's the overtaking opportunity that every lap we look to.
And there is that run into Lisboa. So it's nice and wide, but the exit of the corner isn't. So it's not sucks you in, doesn't it? It tricks you into thinking, I've got all this room.
It does. It absolutely does. And you need to go down there and actually look at it. And I did, and we spent quite a bit of time the other day just looking up the road. Okay, there were buses going the wrong way up, which is not unknown in the racing, to be honest. Going the wrong way going into Lisboa is not. It does happen on occasions, but you've also got at Lisboa a choice. So if you arrive there too quickly, you've got an escape road, quite a long escape road as well.
Now the circuit's got busier, more and more drivers venturing out. I'm surprised actually that many taking their time about this, because you'd have thought they wanted the track time. I am a little bit worried though about Isaac Hajar, because the car stopped and got going, and then we saw rather slowly heading to the pit lane. So it does rather make me worried that the high-tech Pulse 8 car
and by the way, I agree with you completely. Why aren't they all out for every lap? It just seems that that's what this session is about. It's about getting as much time behind the wheel around the circuit for those that have never been here before, even for those that have been here before and maybe even won here before. You would want to be out as much as you possibly can, really, for this free practice session, because you only get a chance to do it once every year, and for the last 3 years they've not had any opportunity at all. So I would personally want to be out there as much as I possibly could be.
Unless what they're trying to do is let other people go out and put the rubber down.
Put the rubber down, yeah. Because the only rubber that has been laid over the last 3 days has been from road traffic. It's been open 24 hours a day for the traffic at Macau, the normal life that continues at Macau, despite the 2-week celebration of the 70th Macau Grand Prix. We're getting quite a few notifications about the line being crossed on the pit exit. That's the hard line, the unbroken line, which is on the exit of pit lane, which you cannot cross. So it's not until the end of that unbroken line that you can get out onto the circuit properly to protect the cars that are already on the circuit, to protect the exit from the pit lane. So last weekend we had a 2-day race weekend for the first weekend of the celebration of 70 years of the Macau Grand Prix, and we had a lot of notifications over the course of the weekend for cars that had been going over that line on the exit. So have a look at it. The stewards, race control, the officials check it out. Sometimes nothing is done, sometimes things will be done. So we've immediately started free practice on the time that you learn these things. So top of the times is the number 18 car, the 18-year-old Noel Leon, and the time of 2:17, 2:80. Tommy Smith is second quickest at the moment with National Purple sector 2 and sector 3. So only, goodness me, 6,000 seconds away from the top time at the moment for Noel Leon. 2:17, 2:86 for Tommy Smith.
Somewhat belatedly, it's taken me a long time to get to this, researching. But going back to your point about why aren't people out, they've only got 4 sets of tyres, 4 sets of drives.
That is the answer.
And so, yes, indeed, you will be relatively savvy about how you use them, because you don't want to go round and round and round and take all the life out of them early, especially when it's being rubbered in like this. I think that's what some of the teams are doing. They're trying to preserve the tyre life over the weekend. Ideally, you'd like one set for qualifying, except there are 2 qualifying sessions, and it's like the good old days, you take the better time out of the 2 and of course you've then got 2 races, the qualifying race, the main race, so the teams having to be intelligent about what they do with the rubber. It tells me, doesn't it, really, that inevitably at some point you're going to be on oldish tyres or used tyres, but how you address that, how you work it over the weekend is going to be really interesting.
It really is. We've got such an international flavour, haven't we, to the drivers that have been drawn to come to Macau, because it is a little bit more special this weekend. It is the 70th Grand Prix celebration and all of the rich heritage. There is a Grand Prix museum here at Macau, which reflects the from day one of the Macau Grand Prix, and it reflects touring cars, GT cars, single-seaters and bikes as well. And I quite like the way they do it, all on different floors, the way you go from one area to another. And we had a good look around the museum yesterday, and one thing that it does do, well, I need to ask you the question, because you've been down to the museum as well. They look to be the original cars. They look to be the actual cars. None of the, sometimes in a museum you get show cars and cars that are mocked up to look like original cars, but even down to the Ayrton Senna car, 40 years since we had F3 here at Macau for the first time, the race won by Ayrton Senna, and that looked to be the WSR Theodore Racing
car.
Yeah, it did,
and you get used to seeing photographs of Ayrton Senna in a Marlboro McLaren, but the first Marlboro car he raced was the Ralt RT3 here.
The Dick Bennett's run,
that's right.
West Surrey Racing, Theodore Racing. Wow, history. Steps back in time. And I'm glad I went. Really glad I went.
Me too. It's worth doing. You come to Macau, go to the museum. And there are significant people get their own waxwork, and the waxworks are outstanding, whether it's Ayrton, whether it's Lewis Hamilton, whether it's Sebastian Vettel, Rob Huff, Eduardo Mortara, Michael Rutter, Ron Haslam from the bike side of it. The wax statues are outstanding.
They are Madame Tussauds made waxworks, and we ended up, as I'm sure many people do, rating the waxworks. Yeah, no, that's good. That's a definite 9 out of 10. Rob Huff, it could be Rob Huff.
Yes.
It was absolutely stunning.
Now you're riding now with Gabriele Mini, and this is outstanding. Look how close to the barrier and the brick wall he gets. And by the way, look, it's a brick wall, because that illustrates what Macau is all about. That brick wall, part of the fabric, there's no barrier in front of it, and there is absolutely no margin for error. I was talking yesterday with one of the FIA stewards, who is a regular steward also for Porsche Supercut, where they transgress track limits quite a lot. And he said, I won't have any problem with track limits here, that's for sure, because if you exceed the track limit, you'll be in the harbour or the hospital or somewhere like that.
Not afraid we need to worry ourselves with this weekend.
Self-policing.
Self-policing,
great idea.
It's exactly the phrase. Yeah, these unique yellow and black barriers that are all the way around the Macau circuit. The yellow and black, the colours of the Macau Grand Prix. And it's not just here at the centre of the race circuit we see yellow and black. If you notice, we went to one of the further islands beyond the Kota Islands yesterday. Oh, that's our first one, number 21 it is, that's gone off down at Lisboa, and that is Laurens van Herpen, and the car has gone straight in to
red flag,
the exit barrier. It will require, well, we saw one of the F4 cars going in free practice into there, and it actually needs to be pulled back before it can be taken out.
That's a big hit.
It is, yeah.
And you can see the front left corner absolutely buckle. Laurens van Herpen ploughing in, who is new to Formula 3 machinery. He's raced in the Formula Regional, sort of similar type of single-seater but less powerful, and Formula Carter. But welcome to Formula 3, welcome to Macau, and our first red flag then goes the way of Laurens van Herpen.
We did do very well in this session before we had a stoppage, didn't we? Yes, we did. 20 minutes, yeah.
Which actually, joking aside, is a lot longer than we did in anything last weekend, when it was punctuated, I think is the word, by interruptions. Gabriele Mini is the fastest from Dino Beganovic, and then Richard Verschoor and Dan Ticktum, the previous 2 winners of the event that you got in the entry, 3rd and 4th. Dennis Hauger is 5th, and Marcus Armstrong 6th, ahead of Zane Maloney, Paul Aaron, Tommy Smith and Roman Stanek. That is the order. And Van Herpen was 11th before his off. And as is often the way, he had just done a personal best in the first sector. He got into sector 2, but with all that speed, couldn't get the car slowed down. And yeah.
In South London, I think the phrase that would apply, that'll learn you.
Yes.
Which is what free practice is all about, really, isn't it? It's about learning. I remember at the British Grand Prix, year after year after year, on the first day, Michael Schumacher would have a spin. He would have a spin somewhere. He'd
find the limit.
He would find the limit, and never would it happen again over the course of the weekend. So.
Yeah. Gilles Villeneuve that style as well.
Yes,
he would find the limit, wind it back.
Yeah.
So the
see what I mean? It needs to go
busy.
back before it can come up. We had that with the F4 car, didn't we?
Well, that's one set of tyres gone. Look at that. Tyre gone, wheel gone. So now the ART Grand Prix team will have to sort of throw itself on the mercy of Robert Mass, who's the technical delegate for the event, and say, right, we need to talk about a new tyre or set of tyres, please, because that's, I mean, that left front's gone. That tyre's wasted, and they've only got 4 sets, remember, for the entirety of the weekend. Because this is free practice, the clock carries on ticking, so the driver's losing some of the available mileage here. But having got the car free of the barrier, it does not take long to hoik it over the way.
It's amazing. The flatbed recovery unit already standing by to bring the car back to the paddock and repairs.
I was just going to say, on the inside of Lisboa, it's a really busy little area, lots of little jewellers.
It is, yeah.
And you can imagine somebody sort of shuffling out, you know, with their new set of earrings and looking up as a Delara plonked next to them and shuffle off. Yeah. But everyday life continues.
Only in Macau.
Indeed. Here it is again.
Only in Macau.
That's Laurens Van Herpen. Too much speed, couldn't make the corner, and back.
Yep.
Red flag.
It's a rather typical incident that we'll see, particularly with the single-seaters. They just pierce underneath that tyre wall, which is ratchet strapped to within an inch of its life, those tyre barriers. I know, all done.
Road clear.
All done.
Yeah. So we had regularly last weekend, session will restart on short call or short notice, and I suspect the same might be true enough again here as Dino Begavinich's car then is pushed back. He's 0.213 of a second away from the top time, but leading 5 at the moment, all within a second of one another.
So as the clock continues to count down, we have 16 minutes just over of this free practice session for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix. Formula 3 cars back here at Macau, and of course it is also the FIA F3 World Cup as well. Same race over the course of the weekend, which is our headline race at the end of Sunday afternoon, and of course we'll have all the build-up with all of the tradition of building up to Macau Grand Prix.
The Lions Arms, the build-up, as you say, which again is unique to Macau and part of the appeal of the event. So Laurens Van Herpen, 11th before his off. Dan Tipton, 4th at the moment. The road in Carlin. Does he start as the favourite?
Yes, I think. Yeah, I do. But very often, you know, we've seen in the past an experienced driver that's gone on to do other things, maybe more powerful things, more global things, comes back, and all of a sudden there's a slight wake-up call from the drivers that have been driving these cars all year. So a Formula E car is a very different thing to an FIA Formula 3 car. So maybe Dan will ease himself in over the course of the weekend, but you can make no mistake, by Saturday afternoon when we've got our qualification race, he'll be right there.
Probably spent the last 20 minutes. That noise.
Yes. I think you're right.
Luke Browning, you see, ready to get back out. Ugo Chokwu, the American driver, part of the McLaren development program. You see the McLaren stickers on the car, and the American driver you've seen in the UK F4, that's Dennis Hauger.
I haven't seen Ugo Chokwu for a year from when he did British F4. And session to be resumed, and we've got the green flag. So session being resumed straight away. He has grown by about a foot since I last saw him. He is an incredibly tall driver, which is not that comfortable in experience in a single-seater car.
No, it's true.
And also is still incredibly quick. Make no mistake, it was so impressive. In fact, there was one meeting, I think it was at Brands Hatch, that Ugo won a race and Zach Brown was in front of the podium filming the podium celebrations on his phone. That's how close the ties are with McLaren.
Yeah, Zach, American of course himself, good enthusiast still, and occasional racer. So the green flag, as Alan says, has been shown, and that means that we go back with just over 13 minutes on the clock. Mini, Boganovic, Verschoor, Tipton, Hauger, Armstrong, Maloney, Aaron, Tommy Smith, 9th, the Australian driver, and then Robert Stanek is the top 10. Of those that you might anticipate to be a little bit higher up, F3 race winner this year, Oliver Goethe, is only 19th. Charlie Wurtz is 15th, son of Alex Wurtz. Christian Mansell, for the first time, of course, an Australian, he's 14th. But again, we come back to something that we talk about regularly in championships in this caliber of entry or one-off races like this. I mean, we've got such a good entry, just the sheer weight of numbers, they can't all be up at the pointy end.
No, you're absolutely right. And it is always like this. One thing we used to do around the commentators and some members of the media at the start of the Macau Grand Prix weekend, before a wheel had been turned, was there was a sweepstake.
Okay.
And I noticed that's kind of disappeared over the last few years. I wonder if that's because it's just too difficult to call.
Yeah, possibly.
First year I came here, I made an absolute fortune on the sweepstake. It must have been beginner's luck. I think you had to get the 1, 2 and 3. Yeah.
Very difficult task. Well, it is wide open. Yes, you expect Tipton and Verschoor, perhaps the previous winners, to do the guns, but as Alan made the point earlier, they've got to reacquaint themselves not only with the track, they've only been here for a good few years, but also with this type of car. We've got 1 or 2 cars that have been looked at crossing the blend line, leaving the pit lane, so no further investigation is necessary. You're riding now with Dan Ticktum, and ahead you've got drivers just trying to buy themselves some clear track space as they head up through Donna Maria and then the run down to Melco Hairpin.
And what a run it is. The tight and twisty section. I mean, one thing that the television cameras maybe aren't able to point out so much, how up and down it is.
Yeah.
It is a rise, it's a rise, it's a rise, it's a rise, and then finally, when you get to the top, it's a downhill run towards the Melco Hairpin. There's no overtaking. It can sometimes form a bit of a car park if someone gets it wrong on the exit to Melco, and then all of a sudden there's no way through for anybody. So that's something we see over the course of the weekend, not so much with the Super Cities, not so much with the F4 or F3 cars, but certainly we get the larger, wider cars, GT cars, GT3 cars on track today and over the course of the next 4 days. So too with touring cars as well. But Single Seaters perhaps the most nimble. I think we're going to enjoy this. Dan Tipton weaving the car from side to side, trying to get heat to the tyres. And then, here we go, up towards the line goes Dan Tipton. This might be one to watch.
Yeah, it's a proper push lap, isn't it, there now, with the tyres getting back up to temperature as he comes out of Reservoir Bend, then down towards Mandarin, so speed building all the time at this section. And then on a map, it looks like a right kick. It's a proper full-on corner, but your foot's nailed to the boards. Uses all of the width of the road, finds the bump on the outside, goes to the middle of the road then and sets the car up for Lisboa. He'll gravitate back towards the left to get the line for this tight right of Lisboa, through which he goes now and heads up San Francisco.
And so neat and tidy through Lisboa. That's the way to do it. Well away from the barrier on the exit. That was a really nice entry. One of the things that's been afforded on this lap for Dan Tipton is the fact that it's clear track in front. We've got the number 14 car, which has gone off down at Lisboa and is able to reverse and maybe get going again. So we've got a yellow flag, so hopefully the car can get going. But we're back on board with Tipton. These onboard shots, what a blessing these are. At the wheel of Dan Tipton's car, a double winner at the Macau Grand Prix. Look at this, twisting through the uphill section of the gear circuit here at Macau. Heading up towards the right-hander at Police, that's a pinch point. And then on towards the right-hander at Moorish. Through Moorish, they are 2 tight turns on this. Just enough room for the width of 2 cars. Touring cars do sometimes use this part of the circuit as an overtaking opportunity. If you're very brave and don't care about keeping your wing mirrors intact, that's the Melco hairpin on board. And made that look so easy. So nimble and easy.
He knows what he's doing around here, doesn't he? So we've got Luke Browning going fastest on a 2 minutes 9. Now we're almost at the lap record pace, almost. Dan Ticktum actually down in 3 of the 4 sectors thus far. He's heading down towards our bend, and that straight longer than you think actually, but as he heads into the corner now, right up against the wall on the outside, heads towards the timing line, breaks the beam, and is second fastest then. That was a 2:11.275, but there's more to come from Dan Ticktum for sure.
There is more to come, because as you rightly say, the first 3 sectors, nothing to write home about. Not personal best, not overall best, but the last 2 sectors, yes.
But we've got a yellow flag in sector 2. Somebody had gone off at Lisboa, but they've got going again. It was number 14 who had been off the road, which means that having rejoined now, Alan's done. So the Irish driver, who is 24th, has had a moment, but got going again. So Luke Browning is the fastest then, 2 minutes 9.091 from Ticktum. Then Zane Maloney, the Bayan driver, up to 3rd in the times, man from Barbados. Family operates the Bushy Park circuit. And Gabriele Mini, 4th, has now done an absolute best in the 4th sector. But here is Luke Browning, who isn't doing absolute best. In a personal best in sector 1. He goes through the Solitude S's, then down towards Police and up towards Moorish.
A couple of years ago, voted the Aston Martin Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year, wasn't he? Luke Browning. He was up against some pretty stiff competition as well that year, and Luke Browning, he was so cool. Not 20 minutes after he was announced that he was the winner that year, stopped and had a chat to me. So you've been pulled all over the place to do photographs and this and that and whatever, but he was completely grounded, smiling away, and just happy to see a friendly face that he knew. I think it was really quite cool. He's a very impressive driver.
Yes. And he's from the right part of the world as well as the Northwest. Park. Right, this is Luke Browning. He is the fastest. I'm not sure this lap's going to be any better. It's not. It's slower by a margin. It's a 2:12. But Dan Ticktum is on a mission. Here he is. Yeah. He's done 3 personal bests and an absolute best on this lap. So for Rodin Carlin, Dan Ticktum comes up towards the timing line. Let's see what he can do. The answer is that he is second on the 2 minutes 9.174. So he's 83,000 shy of Luke Browning.
We've got 6 minutes just over of this first free practice session for Formula 3 cars, and I think we've got more to see from Dan Ticktum. I think this has all been timed. I think you're absolutely right. Looking after tyres has been very much the name of the game during this session, with a limited supply of tyres over the course of the 4 days. And those on-board shots, absolutely superb. Good choice to get on board with Dan Ticktum.
And the way that the timetable works, they have a free practice session in the morning, and then qualifying this afternoon, and then the same again. Tomorrow. It's not 2 free practice sessions and then 2 qualifying. So this is important to get the cars absolutely right for later on. But, as you look at Gabriele Mini trying to go through on the inside, getting yourself caught up in traffic a little bit, bear in mind that now, at whatever we're on, just after 9:30 local time, it is liable to be much warmer at 3:15 this afternoon when they qualify. So what they've learned may turn out to be academic. Dino Bogdanovic has gone fastest now, 2 minutes 8.549. He's half a second quicker than anybody else. Marcus Armstrong, the New Zealander, is second, and Gabriele Mini is 6th, having had that lap really shot to whatnot by being caught up in the traffic. Who else has just improved? Richard Verschoor up to second fastest. Richard Verschoor second. And Luke Browning getting all the cherries aligned on the fruit machine here, because he's got 3 absolute bests out of 4 sectors.
That's looking pretty good, isn't it? Purple. Sectors 2 through to 4. Only sector 5 yet to go for Luke Browning. Marcus Armstrong, incidentally, the driver from New Zealand, making his 3rd visit here to Macau this weekend. Another driver determined to do it. And Luke Browning goes top at 2:07.3. First car to go into the 2:07s, so that is impressive. Some second quicker than Dennis Hauger, who is second. 2:07.3. Luke Browning is on it.
Oh, this is fascinating for somebody who hasn't had a mega season in FIA Formula 3 and has never been here before. Now, what about the man that's third? Dino Beganovic then aboard number 8. So he is doing 3 personal bests. And also Sophia Flörsch, you're riding with now, she's got a bit caught up in traffic, but actually she's going nicely, 12, and has done 3 personal bests on this lap. Car running in the BBT colours that you're familiar with from Formula 1 and ETM and lots of other things. Down towards our bend now then, flicks the car, or Fisherman's bend, flicks the car through, at the back looking a bit loose there.
Yeah.
This lap I don't think is going to be a mega one. Nicola Solov, by the way, has just done an absolute best in the last sector to put himself up to 5th fastest. Nicola Solov, last year's Spanish Formula 4 champion, another member of the Alpine Academy.
What a proud thing for a young driver when you're carrying the colours of a Formula 1 car, when you become part of an academy. Imagine what that feels like, getting into your... and these are pretty cool bits of kit anyway.
Absolutely.
And getting, and you are the colours of the Formula 1 team that you are part of the academy of.
Trouble is, the flip side of the coin is there's even more pressure because you've got to deliver.
There is.
You know, Marcus Armstrong became part of that Ferrari academy. The result in F2 didn't come. He fell off that academy. And perhaps most ruthless of all, Red Bull.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, not only do you have to deliver, you've got to deliver now. Otherwise, Helmut Marko will have a word, and so many people have fallen off that roster. Right, Luke Browning is fastest. We have got 2.5 minutes to go. So for these cars that you're looking at, there's time for another lap after this.
Luke Browning tops the times at 2:07.3, the only car in the 2:07s. That is incredibly impressive for Luke Browning. 2 minutes and 16 seconds of the session remaining. Having a look at the number 18 car there, and that's the car of Noel Leon. We spoke about Noel a little bit earlier on, the Mexican driver, but it's Luke Browning that tops the times. Let's see, where does Dan Tipton fall down to 7th? We have said this is not a competitive part of the day. It's very much about doing a bit of housekeeping, getting the car ready for qualifying at the tail end of today. But I'm just going to go back to Sophia first. Third visit to Sophia here to Macau, and judging on the form in free practice, that's a good showing in 11th place for car number 19.
We've got 1 or 2 now, backing it right off. Dino Beganovic, I think, has done so. So Beganovic possibly thinking about going for a time, or he might just have aborted the session now, be thinking, right, I'll go for the pit lane, which is a shame because he did an absolute best at the start of the lap, but maybe traffic getting in the way means that he's had another think about this, or indeed feels, okay, I know what I'm doing now, let's look after these tyres, because qualifying is going to be very, very important later on in this then a 40-minute session, isn't it?
Gabriel Mini in 13th place, car number 9, has just put in an overall best in sector 4, did personal best in sectors 2 and 3, and meanwhile, what about Dan Tipton? Well, he's just started a lap and gone personal best in sector 1 and 2.
And this is Gabriele Mini then, carrying on what Alan was explaining as he comes across the line to go fastest of all. He's done a 2 minute 6.871. Gabriele Mini is back, and he's back at the top. Mini happy returns. So Gabriele Mini by 0.4 of a second goes ahead of Luke Browning, and that time to perfection with just over 20 seconds of the session before we get a checkered flag. Now Luke Browning's had a bit of a yo-yo lap. Good sector, bad sector. Absolute best sector, not such a good sector. So let's see how he strings it all together. He's up towards the timing line, breaks the beam, and it's a 2 minute 8.3, so he stays second.
It's quite weird, wasn't it? He was a second quicker than anyone else, and then Gabriel Mini goes through and goes half a second quicker in turn than Luke Browning. That was quite a fascinating conclusion to this session. It's not over yet. The checker flag is out, so the end of free practice, but there are more times to come in, and quite a few of them putting in personal best. Hajar is another one of them, putting in personal best on 4 of the 5 sectors around the gear circuit at 2.87 to 0.8.7. That's good enough to be 6th at the end of free practice, and just three or four cars in the top 14 have taken the checker flag thus far. Gabriel Mini is not done yet because the first sector was another overall best. Not even a personal best in sector 2, but as you can see, riding on board, still pushing on very impressively. No, backed off now. So overtaking Gabriel Mini, onwards and inwards into pit lane. Still, I think I'll be fairly proud of that. 2:06.871, 4/10 quicker than Luke Browning.
But I think Luke will be pretty happy with that, because for somebody that's not been here either, and comes off the back of a tough debut season in FIA Formula 3, that's good. And then the best of those, not only with track knowledge, but of course the first of our winners in the entry, third fastest, there he is, number one, the first of those two cars at Macau, Richard Verschoor, and he did on his last lap to go third at 2 minutes 7.864. So Richard up at the pointy end. Fourth quickest, Mari Boyer, also right at the very end, who sort of went under the radar a little bit. And then fifth quickest, Dennis Hauger. Dino Bogdanovic was sixth, Nikola Solov was seventh, Dan Tipton eighth, Isaac Hadjar ninth, and Alex Dunn 10th on his last lap. The last time I looked, he was 26th and last, and Alex Dunn bangs in a really impressive lap right at the end to round out the top 10. Good effort.
Yeah, very much so. And one of the things that's fascinating to watch over the course of all the sessions for the Formula 3 cars, so there are so many drivers that have not been here before. We were just talking about Richard Verschoor. He was here the last time Formula 3 cars were here. Top step of the podium. Richard Verschoor makes a return after 3 years of Formula 3 cars away. But the drivers that haven't been here before, you watch their progress over the course of the weekend. I vaguely remember that was very much the story of Lando Norris over the course of his weekend here at Macau. Only came here once, but the rise up the order from free practice, the building and getting used to the circuit, to end up battling the way he was for second place. Lando Norris in a Carlin car, and that's what you see over the course of the weekend. The rookies, the Macau rookies, slowly but surely building up over the course of the weekend.
Which is the right way to do it, isn't it? Otherwise, witness Lawrence van Herpen, you push too hard and you end up in the wall. Sophia Flörsch, incidentally, for 12th, did an absolute best in one of the sectors on her last lap. So 12th is where she ends up, and a good effort to start the weekend.
I think Sophia was saying that this is her favourite circuit of any. And it's pretty impressive. That's saying something, isn't it? To be so excited and enthralled by the prospect of driving around this circuit that is only open to racing once a year for 4 days every year. Okay, this year for 6 days, but we're going to get confirmation that Gabriel Mini was quickest in the first free practice session for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix, a time of 2:06.871. Luke Browning from Britain, car number 11, some 4/10 of a second behind in second place. Richard Verschoor in third place for Trident Motorsport. As we go down the order, let's see if there are any surprises when we go from 11th. Marcus Armstrong, he'll be making his way up the order over the course of the weekend. He's got good experience here. Sophia Flörsch also here for the third time. Christian Mansell, very quick driver. So too Ugo Ugachukwu, and he's going to be one to watch over the course of this weekend. And so too is Sebastian Montoya, finishing up in 22nd place. Didn't talk about Sebastian during this, but we can expect him to be improving over the course of the weekend. They're now going to go back to their teams, and they'll no doubt, and many of the rookies will say, this is everything you told me it would be. Let's have a look back at the highlights.